Yes, here we go. T.N.F time. It is 7:25. We are live on the Thursday night forum. The judge is back in business as well. And there's loads of you already on the bus. Remember, get the hashtag TNF. We'll get as many of your points discussed tonight as always on the TNF as well. All that good stuff very quickly. Give us a wee like, give us a share, hit subscribe, hit the bell. Go to piesports.com, bus 1888, 12.5% off tasty pastry treats. What else? I think that's what else. Right, okay. Judge, it's been a busy week. There's a lot to talk about. I think from a Celtic persuasion, obviously, there's a lot of optimism about the signing of Idah. I think the links with McCowan, I know you're quite impressed by that, seeing that on Twitter. And again, it's only a link right now, but I didn't mind the free transfer link as well. A guy who's got over 100 games in La Liga at 29 years old. It sounds like he's been bought for if he were to arrive, it would be very much for the present and not a project, which I think is what we were all looking for after the last couple of windows. It's better late than never, I suppose, if these sort of deals were to occur. I didn't realise that McCowan was like 26. We'll talk about him as well. Obviously, we're hoping that the Idah deal isn't just us now. We've got to where we were at the end of last season. That's us done. We want to be progress, and we're hoping this is a kick start. And I'm looking forward to seeing what Celtic may or may not do towards the end of this window. I think it would only be fair as well to have a wee glance over at our neighbours during the show, because I think there'll be a few people, a few opinions on that. And I mean, I didn't realise quite the ramifications from last night's. Was it last night they played, or 2 nights ago? Whenever it fucking was. I watched it anyway, and I didn't realise the ramifications for that, the benefits it's got for Celtic in terms of financially, and where it leaves them in terms of trying to chase us, and the whole sort of lay of the land right now. I think Celtic are in a very strong position, but we can discuss all that also. Judge, first and foremost though, how are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you very much, mate. I've enjoyed this week, mostly laughing at Rangers. I think we've all got to take any opportunity we can to laugh at that mob, you know what I mean? I think it's getting worse and worse the week goes on for them, you know what I mean? But as a Celtic point of view, which really matters, the Idah deal, we all know it was happening, but it was still a relief to see it over the line. You kind of feel like, okay, that's the groundwork's done now. We've got Bernardo, a keeper, and Idah, right? Okay, we've started now. And then I think maybe it's getting towards the end of the window and people are starting to make moves. The chess board's beginning to take shape. And I think, the links with Luke McGowan for Dundee. I know he's 27 this year. He's not going to be wanting to develop into a project and sell on.
Yeah.
But is it good enough for our squad? Definitely. I've seen him wee boy maybe 4 or 5 times. No more than that, I'm not going to lie. But he's impressed me every time I've seen him. I watched him in a Dundee derby and he was in his own box.
Excellent.
He just spun his man and was in the opposition half within maybe 4 or 5 seconds. And at Celtic need the type of player, somebody that can go a bit box to box. And I like that. And I think this European rules about homegrown players doesn't suit Scottish teams. It suits Italian teams, Spanish teams, maybe to a lesser degree the English teams. But we've not got a very good pool of Scottish players. So I think if you can get a player that can impact the squad, can tick half the European homegrown quota for Celtic, and definitely get minutes in Scotland, it ticks all the boxes for me. And it also gives us opportunity to maybe listen to offers for guys like Stephen Welsh and Mikey Johnston. We can't have players stick around the club just because they're Scottish, Bhoycie. I think they've got to make an impact in the squad. Some folk have ran their race like Mikey Johnston. Some folk have never really got to the starting spot like Stephen Welsh. And this boy probably ticks the boxes for me. But there's other links, and I think this week's been a bit more encouraging for myself. We've been a bit doing the dumps about Celtic the last couple of weeks, but it's beginning to look a bit brighter. But only just, I think we've only just put the Mercer on with the Idah deal. We're not exactly warmed up just yet.
Yeah, not exactly warmed up just yet. The Mercer's on though, definitely. And do you know what else as well, which I think could get forgotten about until the window shuts? The football's been much better, Mark. The results have taken care of themselves. Just as been I know Celtic's second half was maybe foot off the gas. I think they generally went out at half-time a bit baffled how shite Hibs were as well. But I think Celtic's level has went up this year. And I think it's remiss to always be focusing on what they don't do right off the field when they're getting lots right on it. And I think Rodgers deserves credit, and the coaching team deserves credit right now, because whatever the message is, the players are now reading it properly. And I think last year we were kind of quite defensive at times about Rodgers. I know there was moments through the season where we weren't so, but we must remember going, it's not like he's telling the players to play at a snail's pace. There's the Ange ball, tear it all up and play. But the message wasn't getting right. They were taking it, I think, from one extreme to the other. I think this year you're seeing a slightly tweaked sort of Ange ball, if you want to call it. But it's a Brendan Rodgers more style. It's still more possession based, but it's far more free flowing now. And I think the players have got on board with, I think was it Phil the other night had said, whatever is Rodgers selling, O'Reilly's buying. But I think that goes for the whole team right now. I think they all look far more on side of the manager's tactics, instruction, mentality that he's wanting them to play with. That aspect's really encouraged me. And that's where you start getting more optimistic, shall we say. Say we'd played the first two games in the manner we'd played a couple of the games last year when it had been turgid, and it's McCowan being linked with us. I don't think you look at it with the same optimism as you do. Now you're thinking, well, shots into that team. And what we're doing on the park is so relevant to then what we're doing off it, or the viewpoint we take on what we're doing off it as well. And just on McCowan, well, we Blether about him if you want. I hadn't really heard of him, if I'm honest. So I was a bit gutted when I found out he was 26. I know it's not old. Do you know what I mean? You're fucking well over the hill if it is. But I watched him. I only watched him in great detail is when Dundee either drew with Rangers or beat Rangers at Dens. Remember Rangers had that couple of games? And that was the first time I thought, holy fuck, who's this lad? He's a player. And then, of course, he catches your eye after that, and you're then watching his best bits and things like this. And again, Celtic, you're watching, I think the Dundee Derby was a good one. I watched the highlights of that on YouTube as well, just because I like watching those games because they're full stadiums. I think it's far more captive from a Scottish football point of view when you watch games that don't involve Celtic, when they're full houses. You're so much more drawn to it.
Yeah.
But that also means the pressure's higher on the players. And you're right, he looked head and shoulders above everything else. And I've always petitioned on this. Petition is a bit strong. You know what I mean? I've always advocated, again, that's a bit strong. I've always suggested that Celtic might be better looking in and around their own league for the best of the rest. I think it's why I'm so frustrated with the Miovski one. Delighted he does in. Take nothing away from that. We will get to him. But I would like to see us now just go all out and get guys that we know can do it in this league that will provide competition to a point, but you can count on from the get-go to step in. And I think with guys like, no offence to Home, Quans of the world, these guys, you were taking a risk when you were bringing them in from the manager's viewpoint. Otherwise, you'd have used them more, right? So it's obviously, I think if you're looking at a 26-year-old McCowan, I think you're looking at that to go, no, I would count on him to come in and step in and play. So happy days with that. If that were to happen, it's interesting that how negative we could be about it. Like, I can't believe it takes Hibs to fucking make 3 bids before we get our act together. That could have been the tone. But again, I just think there's a wave of optimism right now about Celtic that type of player I'm all for. What's your take on Celtic looking around the league? And I want to touch on your thoughts on Miovski as well with regard to that.
It's a good thing for me because I think we can't build our team around Scottish-based talent. We all know that because I think if we've got any aspirations of European football or even dominating long-term, we're going to have competition, i.e. Rangers, who will look in better markets. So we need to be above that, you know what I mean, or at least be complementing our squad with the best talent we can afford. But I don't think there's anything wrong with looking for players within the league. I mean, like McGowan, he's probably a bad example because of his age, but Miovski's ticks all the boxes for a Celtic board. I think Celtic need 3 criteria. I think they have to be young enough to make money on. I think they've got to have ability, and I think they've got to fit the style of play that Celtic need. I think Miovski maybe fitted. And I think Miovski, just for what I've seen him, I think he could have probably played just after midfield. I think he doesn't need to be an all-round striker, mate.
Totally agree.
And I think even Kyogo would benefit for somebody who maybe, if you've not got a Riley, I spoke about this today, sometimes you're reading somebody who can maybe link the midfield to attack, and I think he could have did that 100%. And I don't think this is the thing that I've spoken about as before, like even with guys like Scales, we look at them and they've not got a sexy name. They've went on loan to Aberdeen, and you just they don't shake that tag off. And I think even the Celtic board has got a snobbery about Scottish football, and I think as fans too, Bhoycie, I think the Scott Brown deal for
I
talks
agree
like
with that, man. I think it's a great point.
Of course, man. Scott Brown was £4.5 million, and you know what? That was a head-to-head battle with Rangers. So that was an instant acceptance for the fan base that this is a player we want.
Yeah. So you think it was to do with the fact there was interest from our rivals that instantly sort of flipped that into no snobbery?
Yeah, of course. It's like
good shout.
You've won a battle straight away. Anytime if you beat them at Tiddlywinks, you're so anything, it's a battle. And I think the Celtic board, they fall into the same category as us, Bhoycie. You know what I mean? I think as much as they're I think they're nose blind to a lot of things that goes on in the fan base in Scottish football, I think they do know that the modern football fan, the youngster with names at the back of the strip, they look for that funny name, that foreign name, you know what I mean? And I think a Scottish-based talent, I think a Scottish-based youth player at Celtic, never mind first-team player, is going to be 10% better than the players up against if he's foreign. For talk's sake, I think Greg Taylor gets a lot more leeway if he's foreign than what he does because he's Scottish, boys. I think he's a 7 out of 10 every week. I really do. I think you can count in maybe one hand how many times in Scottish football he's let you down. And that's my genuine belief. I don't think he gets ripped apart in Scottish football very often.
Mm-hmm. Let me play devil's advocate on that, right? Just to come in, right? And you like this. I think if Greg Taylor is foreign, though, and you look at how we've adapted his position since Rodgers came in, because it was not inverted fullbacks Rodgers playing. And now he plays one inverted fullback, and it's all to suit Greg Taylor. If you watch where he's positioned through a game, it's baffling at times in sense of he's clearly been given special dispensation to do it. But I think if that's a form, just for another outlook, I wonder if it would be, he's came here and just does what he wants. If he's got any position, it could look like that going, he's not got to grips with Scottish football. But I think it's been a deliberate decision by Rodgers on Taylor to go, how do I get the best out of this guy? Because Johnson quite clearly is happy. He sort of plays in the inside channel when he's attacking now. And like the wide man will be right on the touchline, and the wee one-touch passes for Johnson, he's
giving going
one inside him, but Greg Taylor's in the centre, so I go a lot. So he looks like he's been given a unique role. It's not a symmetrical one with the two fullbacks. It seems very much Taylor's got his own individual one in that. I wonder how well received that would be if it were a foreign player, whether we would take it as that, whether we think, is he playing a different style of football to the rest of the team? What's going on? I'm just wondering.
Well, I think the left-hand side has, if you look at Bernabei, I hate mentioning the guy, Bernabei, ball and goalie, it's almost like the left-hand side has been the kind of erratic side of the park, where the spatial awareness hasn't been very good and all the rest of it. I think Greg Taylor has kind of ticked that box where he can play inverted, he can play in the middle, he can play sometimes as an out-and-out fullback, and his positional strength, his positional play is pretty good. I've said before, it's not very often you see 30 yards of space behind Greg Taylor's head. You don't really see that very often. He's either on his man or he's catching up with his man or he's in front of his man. So I think he's, in that respect, I do think, and Johnston, you mentioned, he's maybe a give and go player. I think Greg Taylor carries the ball pretty well. And I think sometimes that gets, people don't appreciate that side. So I think we're all guilty of kind of downplaying Scottish-based players.
Good balance, mate.
Aye.
Good balance.
And you look at, if you look at even our captains, I mean, nobody took to Steve McManus because he was a bit of a donkey as a defender, right? But he had the heart of a Celtic captain. But I think when you're a foreigner, you get a lot more leeway. I don't think they mistimed headers or stupid passes to the keeper rather than playing it forward get magnified as much as they do if you're a Scottish player. And I think even if captains can be scrutinised as much as that. McManus, I think even first team regulars can be as well. So I don't think Celtic would be going outside the mould in terms of that. As I say, the three things: they want to make money on you. Can you play in that position? You know what I mean? I think Celtic, if they can find that within the league, then I'm all for it. I mean, I think the Asian market, I think we bled that dry, Bhoycie. I think if there was more players like the Kyogo, Hatate on his day, if they were more and more prevalent, if they would be in the Dutch league or other place, the Dutch teams pick up talent, ten a penny. They really do. They're really good scouting. Not just the big clubs. Dutch leagues tends to have been, for a long time now, they've been got to markets like Brazil and Argentina and picking up players. We're just catching up, British football.
I heard a good
Anybody else, I think the top ones, like the ones that end up at Man U and Arsenal, they prove themselves very, very, very quickly at high level football. We pick players up in their mid-20s, Kyogo, Hatate in his early 20s, but there's no many about. So why not, if you're going to complement your squad, look in Scotland. But I think to progress in Europe and to put a foothold and put on our foot on Rangers' neck and squash it this time, you really need to look at the very, very best you can afford, not the very, very best you can see.
Well, that's fair as well. That's interesting. Yeah, I get you there. Interesting, just very quickly on the Asian one, I seen a brilliant quote. I don't know who said it, might be one of the viewers. And they said the strategy of the Asian market fell apart when we switched from the J League to the K League. I thought it was very good. I thought it was accurate as well, to be
very good. We went one letter too much.
Next to the alphabet, mate.
We've got La Liga next in. La Liga. La Liga's next.
Oh, good. Not all for that. Well,
MLS after that.
That would lead us on to signing Renato Tapia. And that is one of the links this week. I know David does a brilliant job on the Tuesday Tick. It's a great show, that, because it's so different from the other ones in the bus, where he loves going around the rumour mill, the gossip, the newspapers, articles, or website articles as they tend to be now, all about Celtic and getting the lowdown on it. I seen that link with Tapia, mate. 29 years old, 84 caps, I think I'd read, for Peru. 84 caps at international level. Let's just be real here. It's decent. 500 Celtic Vigo amongst his former clubs. I think it was 3 or 4 years in La Liga just spent. And the reason it also interests me was because I think people thought, well, he's only played, I think it was Everything Celtic, or one of those sites on Twitter will say, he's only played 6 out of his 120 games for Celtic Vigo at centre-back. So if anyone's thinking this would be the left side centre-back, he can play there, but it's unlikely we would sign him to be that is his defined role. And then I think people get confused, but I'm actually less of that mindset, Matt, because when we were looking to sign, if you remember, a guy called Vinicius Souza, something like that? Remember the holding midfielder a couple of years ago that fell through to Espanyol or something like that?
It rings a bell.
Aye, we were talking about it in the bus, and basically what he was a holding midfielder with a real physical profile. Now, we had at that point O'Reilly, Hatate, and McGregor. So nothing's changed for me that there was a longing to have some sort of physical presence in the midfield, maybe a horses for courses thing. But when the going gets tough, that you've got someone in there more of an enforcer type. And I was quite encouraged to think someone with that experience coming in as well and bringing a wee bit more physicality, because I think it's a fantastic, 3 midfielders that we've got there, right? And I really do. I don't think we could want much more from Celtic to achieve in terms of 3 midfielders we've currently got, right? Now, if O'Reilly were to stay, Phil's getting more confident he will. He's gone for me, right? I still think he goes. That's just my honest opinion. But say he was staying, don't be confused by us still going out to get a physical enforcer in that midfield as an option as well, because there'll be games you need that. There's games that this suits. And it was the same 2 years ago. We were frustrated. I think it was D'Souza or something like that. Someone could correct me. And they're now saying Alistair Jackson Tapia signed for another team as well. There you go. But anyway, that profile of player, I'm okay with. I think that we still do, for certain games, need a wee bit more physicality. If there was any criticism of the 3 we've currently got, it would be that lack of bite. I think Callum McGregor has aspects of it. I think he's adapted them into his game. I don't think his natural game was ever to be like that. It's something that's came maybe with age or experience to an extent, but sometimes you just need a natural physical specimen in there. I mean, obviously you need to be able to play football, but we do need to add that dimension at the team in all areas. I feel, that the getting bullied aspect never used to happen to us, and I do think those three midfielders, for all the talent they have, and I think there is a lot of talent in those three midfielders, fucking hell, I really do. That'd be one area you could say, the physical attributes in there, though, that'd be the lowest bar that they've got, or the lowest rating they would have if we're on FIFA or something. That'd be the physical side. What's your take on that? And does it sound like, whether it's Tappy, whether it's someone else, what do you make of it, Celtic being in the market looking at a more midfield enforcer joining the club, and someone with that sort of more physical stature?
I think Rodgers likes that. I think he's Scott Brown at Celtic, and I think he'd the big guy we were linked with when he's at Leicester. I think we're trying to buy him, or we're linked with him.
Marty?
I think it was.
Marty, something like that.
So he likes that kind of dominant, powerhouse in midfield. Listen, European football, you see quite a lot. You need somebody to let your ball players play ball. You can't just have 3 5'10" football players. You need somebody in there who's able to dig and take control of midfield, and that allows players to play a bit more freedom when there's somebody. Because at European football, it's a physical. Every team you're playing, they're like athletes. I mean, if anybody, you watch these teams warm up before the match, and the first thing you know, it says everyone is like something out of the Olympic Games. They're athletes. They're ripped. You know what I mean, boys? And we can't be just playing. Oh, right, here we go. That's my neighbour's dog, probably, that annoy him. We can't just have three kind of 5'10" players running about the park. You need to have a bit of midfield dig. And I think Celtic will be in the market for that, especially you think it's Brendan Rodgers is the type of manager who likes a midfield enforcer, like Scott Brown, as I mentioned. So I definitely think that Celtic in the market for that. But it's been a hard one. I don't think we've replaced Scott Brown since Scott Brown left. I'm not talking about the captain or the player or the man, but the actual physical, the position he played. We've not anybody to do that is able to do it of any note. I mean, Carl McGregor does do a wee bit of filling in for Greg Taylor, and he does well covering the left back role and helping out and all the rest of it. But Scott Brown was just so natural, dominating that midfield, and he was swinging up at that midfield, and he was covering Kieran Tierney for a lot of time at Celtic, and he was so natural at doing it. But in European football, I think it was I don't know if it was Rodgers last season, but he's something like 95%.
Rodgers' first season.
It's 95% tackling success rates in the Champions League, and it was the highest in the Champions League group stages. Scott Brown.
Was it not pass completion as well?
It may have been. His stats were really, really good.
Well. Yeah, you're right.
And I think you've got to have that in modern football, because it's not just about the wee silky players. You get teams like Real Madrid and all the rest of it, and you think they're just these twinkle toes at all. You actually look at the guys, they're like 6 foot, you know what I mean? And the wee guy like Modric will have big units beside them or behind them, in front of him. They complement each other. And when you play a European football, I think you need more than one string to your bow. You got to have quite a lot of different compromises throughout the park. You know what I mean? If you've got a left back that's maybe small, you're going to have a left-sided centre-back who's able to cover him for that and all the rest of it. And I think you're going to have players like Riley and Hatate and McGregor in midfield. You're going to have somebody to complement that, or to compensate for that by having a bit more dig. I don't think it's probably the top of Celtic's short list just now, but I definitely think Celtic should be in the market for somebody who's going to be a bit enforcer. Not just for the European football, but sometimes in Scottish football it can get a bit dirty, and I think we get bullied quite a lot.
Tynecastle, things like that, mate. That's what first comes to mind, doesn't it? No, but I'm glad you share that view. It's not something that needs to be, and it's interesting how more fluid the conversation is about wanting to have competition in the midfield, or wanting to have different types of options, and not just going, well, he's not going to join to be fourth choice. It seems to be the binary view when it comes to having a third striker. Well, he's not going to join to be third choice. Well, no one said that. It'll be horses for courses. I mean, if anyone says I'm happy to join his third choice, I would turn them away. is send them packing. You don't want something like that joining the club. So I don't get that attitude. But yeah, it was interesting when it's a different position in the park, how easy the conversation can flow there and how open to it people would be. Remember, guys, do put hashtag T.N.F at the start of your questions. Idah, what speculation over the fee? First and foremost, delighted that he's now in the door. See, for me, I've got to be honest with a couple of things. And let's not make it negative. Let's bring balance to the conversation. Football-wise, this is a player Rodgers identified to improve his team, and he's got him. That's a good thing. Idah will score 15 to 25 goals in that range. I don't give myself quite a wide range, but let's just go with it anyway. And what about Regan Stevens? By the way, unveiled today, Idah on the 15th of August. That's frightening. He called that back in June. How's that? He definitely knows that.
A good guess for the boy. Aye, definitely.
Aye, right. It was a good guess. Someone's told him something. I'm telling you right now. He's ITK.
Yeah, Martin.
Maybe. But then there's been this debate about the fee. The fee doesn't concern me in the sense of what the value is. The value is what the value is. But don't tell me this has been 11 weeks of haggling it down to 9.5 million. That's what fucks me off. People think you're moaning about fee. Oh, who cares? He's in the door now. Celtic dropped points in the last 2 games. Say they had. You'd care. You'd care. Yep. So see when practice isn't looking great, you still call it out. I see if we always have this attitude of, oh, who cares? It's done now. It's the worst attitude to a business I've ever held. And it'll be the same folk who kid on, they've got their wee business hats on and think Celtic's bank balance is their own bank balance and treat it as such. So you can't have it both ways. See, just to shrug your shoulders and say, who cares now? I don't like that attitude. It doesn't work for me. That fee, I'll tell you my theory. Kyogo's a few times at the weekend looked like he could have to come off, right? Earlier than when he did. I think Rodgers, there's something about they reckon he'd done his press before he spoke to the players. So if you believe that tells me he's got something to say. And or he's raging. I think he's went to someone at the club above him that'll be present, and then he's went out and done his presser. I think the message has been, get me fucking Idah this week. Done. Just stop fucking about now. That's not funny. This Easter Road, you must be like, do you know my fucking record here? Not you'll be proud of it. His record's shite, Easter Road. Aye. He knows the pitfalls that come there. And you're fucking tying one hand behind my back. Folk think that's acceptable. Oh, fuck it, sing now. If that's your attitude, good on you. I wish I could be that blasé about these things. It's not in my nature. I scrutinise everything, good and bad. I like to bring balance to the debate. In the long run, we'll all forget about this. If Idah sees out his 5 years and scores 100 goals, of course we will. Let's do it this long. But in the meantime, if there's a fucking guy there that Rodgers wanted for 11 weeks, don't tell me you've done good business by haggling it down to 9.5 million and getting him in after 2 games are played. Not in any way, shape, or form is that good work. Don't be fooled by that. However, talk to me about the player first, and then I want your thoughts on the what I've just said about the deal.
I think he's a fantastic signing. I mean, if you look at, I spoke before about Celtic seasons, and I talk about key moments quite a lot, and I mentioned my best pal Anthony Ralston throughout the years. And I think you look at Celtic's maybe top 5 moments that won us a league last year, and you've got to bring in Fir Park, you've got to bring in Easter Road, you've got to bring in his last minute goal, the free game against Wayne. He's involved in the majority of the big moments for Celtic. Goals along the way do matter, of course they do, but I'm talking about the big moments when your best players stand out. And for me, he was probably the best player from the day he signed until the end of the season. And people forget that winning goal in the cup final. He was a sub that day. He came after the subs bench to win us a cup. He wasn't on the park for 90 minutes, and it's hard to come into a game in that intensity and play like you've not missed a minute. It's a very hard thing to do. Players talk about it. It takes you 3 or 4 minutes to get yourself even up with the pace. Never mind jump on and there you go. But I'm afraid
Sorry.
No, it's all right. No, it's all right. I find it hard to read and talk at the same time. Mate. My eyes are terrible, as you know. But I can see it now. But it's a fantastic signing, to be quite honest with you, mate. I really do think it's a brilliant move by the club. I don't think that there's any pitfalls to that deal. See, even if it in a different universe and it flops, it does not mean we shouldn't have went for this deal, boys. It's a deal we should have went for. There's no criticism of the fact that we've got to the other line. It's a no-brainer for me. The player itself, if that was an audition last season, then it's the best audition the guy could have done. I think we all fell off our chairs with excitement when we signed Odsonne Edouard, who played for one full season. And let's be honest, he scored a couple of goals against Rangers at Celtic Park, one at Ibrox, and it got my contract. He didn't do much. See that season he's on loan? He didn't do much at all. I was at the game.
The first 6 months, mate, he did fuck all.
Aye. I was at the game when he scored in the cup, and there was there was fans jeering when he scored. They were jeering. That's how bad. I think we played our bro for something like that. When we beat it and was going, hey, when we scored. Because the guy was doing nothing for Celtic. Nothing. It was as if he was to go back in January. He went back in January, and not one person would have bought him. Fast forward a couple of months, because I go at Ibrox, scores 2 in a big match, win the league, and before you know it, he's a hunt scalper and he's signed. I think Idah, with 4 months of football, done far more.
That's such a valid point.
And on the transfer and the transfer fee and how it was done, I think you do gamble, you know what I mean? Let's get one thing right. If we were playing qualifiers, it wouldn't have altered the club's trajectory in signing him. Celtic gamble, right? I think if the first 2 games of the season would have been Tynecastle away and Rangers at home, I think they still wouldn't have bought him. The timeline was the timeline. I think Rodgers came out, he was asked, does Kyogo coming after? Does this fast forward your thinking in terms of bringing in Adamita? And he said, I hope so. Yeah, I hope so. I don't know. I think he'd been very coy on the subject, but I think he was pressed and he was pushed and he was pushing the board. I've long since said that I'd be terrified if my manager is using the press to make statements to the club, because I think if your manager has to do that, then he's not actually your manager. He's just a stooge. You need a manager who makes detailed conversations with the club, speaks his mind, and then the fans and the press find out afterwards. He said last week that's what he does. I believe him on that one. I don't think he does do that, but I think he was kind of letting the fans know and letting the press know that I do know this is escalated. And I'm
what do you think? What do you think of my thoughts that he's came down maybe from a chat with someone?
Maybe
I think because he looked like a guy that was fresh in the mind.
Well, so, maybe he's walked by somebody and he walked by somebody and he's went like, "Look, leave to get this done, mate." And it's maybe that's how casual conversations can take. I don't think
that's how I think it's went. I've just got that
feeling. It has to be a boardroom. It doesn't have to be a boardroom with a secretary taking notes. I think these conversations can take. I think we all know that the club been running the table since mid-June when Celtic put the first bid in. Ridiculous bid, but they put the bid in. You know what I mean? So I think we've known since day one that Celtic were at least intent in buying this guy. So my theory is, and it's probably all your theory is, 11 weeks at 20 grand a week is 220 grand club saved. And no one, but they've made an asset that bad that they probably stalled that much that the price tag was going up because Celtic. And the Celtic have created this monster. I spoke about this a while ago. See, when clubs know that you've got cash on the hip, they give you a tax. They tax you on that cash. They think if Man City want a player,
of course they do.
MK Dons 100 grand for this 16-year-old. Man City want him. Tell him it's 350. They bother here. You know what I mean? Chelsea get him for 100 grand. Man City's free grand. Bad example, but you know what I'm talking about. Celtic created that monster, and I think if the Haggling was gone for £4 million and it took them 11 weeks to get up to 9.5, I'm going to be totally honest with you. The sources, Anthony Joseph, for talk's sake, I don't trust. But
you've dressed up the fee, yeah.
I think the fee is reported. It's 6 million. I think the fee's 6 million. I think there will be add-ons. Celtic will paid £8.5 million a month for Sundays. And when I heard Anthony Joseph mention it, don't forget Anthony Joseph said last week that some of this Celtic team is better than the Lisbon Lions. And then said fact after it. So that's how much. Aye, as you said, aye. You see, let's be clear here. There's players in this Celtic team that are better than us in the lines. Then he paused for a second and went, fact. That's what he said on another podcast. I turned it off and then went back on it because I couldn't believe I had to rewind it to I'll tell you what podcast it was in a minute, but that's what he said. So don't really trust his. That's the same guy who fell for a WhatsApp rumor last season. Somebody put a WhatsApp rumor out and he fell for it and reported it and all. So I'm not entirely sure if I trust his stuff. But at £8.5 million, I think it's been 6 with add-ons. But even if it's £1 million, I don't care.
No, I agree with you on that as well.
Rodgers wants him and Rodgers gets him. It's a good thing because we saw before what happened with Celtic give Rodgers players he doesn't want and not back Rodgers' advances for players that he does want. I think it becomes disenfranchised and wants to move on, and we need to keep him because we were proven last season with a very, very poor team that Rodgers is a difference maker. Give him a good team and let it cook.
Yeah. I want your thoughts on something that just came up to me now. We've obviously said that the last 4 windows have been shite by Celtic standards, right? I'm going to twist it a wee bit now. I'm going to twist it with hindsight, mate, and use hindsight as my friend. Because when you think about it, the last window Celtic came out and apologised for. This is incredible when you think about it. They apologised for the January window. Look at Kuhn now. Look how much Rodgers has got in the fork out for Idah, and they were the two brought in. And Celtic will try to apologise for that window. Are you getting the feeling when you now look at this window and the arrivals are 1 for the board, 3 for Rodgers? That's Idah permanent, Bernardo permanent, and Schmeichel. That's a Rodgers signing, obviously, right? You look at that. Are we now maybe entering a phase? And fucking hell, I don't want to fall in the trap of last year. However, I've got this as pretty decent evidence I'm backing it up with, that maybe January, and that's probably why the board apologise. They're getting see, don't leave it to this idiot, you shite. You didn't get any deals. We actually apologise for how bad the window was under Brendan. That's it. But Brendan's wanted to keep those two guys. Kuhn's games came on a middle, right? The quality's there with him. We didn't see it last season. I stand by that. I'm already changing my mind on him that quick. Fickle football fan, maybe. But someone Rodgers wanted.
Right,
Rodgers elevated him as well, straight towards that first team, mate, which tells you he's went, oh, no, that's not the real him. Let him get pre-season and let him have, teeth problems. Bizarre, but whatever. Idah he brought in on a loan, derided for it at the time, scores the crucial goals, dictates outcomes. That's what he did last season for us. He influenced outcomes right through that period. Rodgers gets them to spend money they don't want to on him. Let's be real. The board bid $4.5 million. Rodgers told them to bid 6, 8.5. Split your hairs wherever you want. Who cares? You look at Schmeichel. That is on top of the board's one signing, which is Sinisolo, a guy who was at Exeter last year and was £1 million from the Premier League project.
Oh.
Now, are we going to maybe get to, let's say, January opening up, and once this window shuts, say we get 1 or 2, we'll know with the next 1 or 2. That's what's so exciting about the next couple of weeks, mate, for me. We're going to know now who's in charge because January looks now like a Rodgers window. And ironically, and I can see you smiling when I said it. It's funny that the board apologised for that. That's the first window they've apologised for, and it's almost like that's the one they gave the reins to Rodgers on. And maybe he wanted to get more over the line. They wouldn't go all out for it, or he couldn't get things over the line. But the two he did bring in, he's got complete faith in because he's willing to smash Celtic's usual transfer sort of fee region to get Idah, and Nicholas Kuhn is now looking like he's number 1 or 2 winger. In fact, number 1 winger it looks like he's going to be, because Forrest will drop out before he does, right? So that, and then Kasper Schmeichel, we all know that's him because he worked in for 4 years at Leicester. I wonder what's going to happen the next 2. I think we'll have a lot of the puzzle pieced together, Mark, as to whether Celtic has passed the reins back to Brendan and maybe have listened. And I know you'll be sceptical, which, by the way, so am I, because I was so fucking wrong last time around. But just with the thoughts I've given you there, Has there been a change in tact and we've just not kind of seen it in plain sight?
I think he's already told us. I think it was a point in the January window and in this window where he's mentioned that we could have had players in, but we want
Yeah, he said he
quality.
could have had 9 players this summer.
Right. I
That's
think
right.
that was a bad comment. I think there has been players put to him that he's knocked back. And I think in January, I think there's been 5, 6, whatever, been put to him in January, and he's went, no, 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 no. And I think that's where it's fell apart. And the same with this window, I think there's maybe been less put to him this window because I think Mark Lawwell's out the picture. I think anybody who's at the club that was in the club in January would have knew where the line is crossed when it comes to Rodgers. I'm not going to bring this guy, a player of this standard, because he's going to knock it back. You don't go to your boss, put it on his desk and put the bin after time, boys. Eventually you learn the message, you know what I mean? And I think he's maybe had less names put on the desk, but I think the names he's had have been maybe higher quality. I do think now, unlike last summertime, Rodgers is firmly in control of the first team players that's been brought in. I think Celtic might go on to sign just in the solos and players that
We've no
already.
issue with that, do we?
No, I've not got an issue. I
Me neither.
haven't even got an issue with Celtic signing backup. No, I don't mean second choice players, but backup squad players. Like, for instance, somebody of a Bain standard. You know what I mean? Sign any more you want as long as they're going to be sticking to their lane. You know what I mean? I think Rodgers is going to be anybody that's been brought in for money that's going to be for the first 11 or first team selection. I think it's going to have Rodgers' seal of approval. I don't think that's madcap to say that. I think Rodgers has already told us this. I think Rodgers. I've always thought Rodgers is a kind of guy who he's very methodical. I think 9 out of 10, more than that, he thinks about what he's saying. He's a very, very astute guy, and I think there's wee clues in what he says about I could have had 9 players, the exact same figure that we brought in last year. I don't think any of them last year was a Rodgers player. I think Bernardo, I think he was maybe one that came for the Benfica side. I think Nivroki was put onto Celtic by the agent of Starfelt. You know what I mean? That's all Celtic signings, but we all know the Celtic signings: Yang and Kwon and Billy Bong, whatever they're called. Celtic makes
Incidentally, were you surprised to
signings
see Jan come on at the weekend? I was.
that.
I thought he'd be further out the picture by now, mate, if I'm honest.
I can't remember him coming on.
Yeah,
I
he
do
came on.
think he's one of the guys that will be like, say, you look back and you go, like, I don't know, like you go, Tebbley, he played for O'Neill. Oh, I didn't know that. I think you might see that the Yang in a couple of years' time when he's out the picture, he's away and he's sold, whatever. I'm not
I
so.
hope so.
That's what they
I love
are.
that big player.
I think Yang with that red card last year. I think Celtic.
It's why Terry
Wang.
famously called him Wang on post-match push one. He was called him Wang, and I was like,
Well, I think
"I've
a
got nothing
Wang's
to tell
fucking
you."
useful. At least a Wang's useful. I mean, even like I remember when Lustig got sent off at Pittodrie, we won the match, and then the following week or whatever it was, Silnovic got sent off at Ibrox. When at key moments of your season, and I thought you's been arseholes nearly cost us a league title by being stupid. I thought Yang last season, don't care what anybody says, anybody wants to blow up. That high foot, where it touched the guy's nose, face, ear, whatever, it was a stupid, reckless, stupid
Correct.
decision to make in a VAR league.
In a
And it
VAR
cost,
intense league as well at that
aye,
point.
and
That's where he
and
was.
and a VAR and league and referee structure whose main purpose is to penalise Celtic as much as possible. Let's get this thing correct here. That's a fact. Anybody with 2 eyes can see that the referee in Scotland is biased towards Rangers. We all know that. We accept that. So I thought, you know what I mean, shows a bit of maturity there. Showed a bit of, I don't know. I think he played one good game
Ibrox, mate.
before that.
Ibrox. Remember when they cut inside and he gets skinned, then he gives up.
Oh,
And
that, yep,
Matondo curls it for.
yep.
That was when I changed everything. I went, see any hope I've seen in him? See when a
Nah.
player gives up. And
He played
in
one
that
good
game,
game.
in that game and you give up. I mean, getting skins okay, getting turned inside, but you stopped. And even if you don't get the blocking on that, even if you don't, I need to see you try. To have been skinned and he just stood and that Matondo, you're putting him off even if you're making a challenge you can't make.
I
Do you know
didn't
what I
give him
mean?
space.
You close it. Yes, exactly.
And he allowed him to use his
He gave
body
up.
as a way of
Yeah,
killing the ball. You know what I mean? And I think that's normal. See, when you dissect a Celtic Rangers match, you normally see the Rangers players do that against Celtic. They don't get the heart, they don't get the ability, so they just give up. You know what I mean? And Celtic normally get the players who are on the ball, on the beat. And it'd be strange to see a Celtic player do that. I think he was, I think he was one of the players that Rodgers mentioned in that nine. Well, I think Kuhn and Idah. Kuhn's a bit of an unlucky one because I do think losing all that body weight. See that body weight for a winger, you need to have upper body strength. That did impact his confidence, his ability, and
Yep.
probably his stamina. So I can kind of fling away some of last season for Kuhn. I don't think he was. I think there was some podcasts I listened to that just totally written him off. I don't blame them, Bhoycie, because we all
Yeah, I
do it.
get
If I
that
see
as
a
well.
player,
We're all
I've
like
written
that.
them all off. You know what I mean? This season, this is what pisses me off because to a man, every player that's went pre-season with Rodgers is now reaping the benefits. You know what I
Yes,
mean?
yeah.
Look at Greg Taylor. Look at his hair, for instance. His hair's brilliant now. For
I know.
talk's sake, the players are looking slicker, fitter. They're looking like Rodgers. Season one in 2016, when the players turned into athletes, they were all.
You're right. You're so right.
And if Idah had been in, would he be up to scratch by now? Would he have played at Easter Road? Had we had got a first game away at
I
Hearts,
agree.
had we been week 2 or week 3, sorry, at Ibrox instead of at home against Hibs in the Cup, would he be up to maybe 4 or 5 goals in the pre-season and league? Instead, we've took the gamble with somebody who's no want to be at Norwich, is not going 100%, no committing to pre-season. Maybe we've got a player who's maybe been at 60% for his old club, new coming up to a level of player who's had 3-4 weeks in America and the UK with Rodgers' strict training regime. That won't happen overnight. That will take 2-3
I
weeks for
agree.
this player to
It
catch up.
pisses me off.
And it makes you think it's an argument against anybody thinking that players can just come into Rodgers' setup. Anybody who you get see it as a football player at any club, you only get 2 chances to get on the park with the manager. It's pre-season in January because Celtic play Saturday, midweek, Sunday, quite a lot. All those cup games, right? You don't get 2-3 weeks of just one-on-one time with the manager. That's when things happen. We go to Dubai with a manager. We don't go to Dubai because it's a nice sunny climate. We have a good time. We come back rejuvenated. No, they have 2-3 weeks with a top class manager, reiterating points, reiterating strategies, playing formations, talking to them one on one, and getting re-galvanized for the seat to push ahead. It's not because they just had a holiday together. It's the same as summertime. That is 2 crucial parts to the season. Celtic normally get these
You're
these
right.
2 periods correct. And that's why you want your best players in at the earliest possible moment. We've gambled to a certain extent. I think Rangers falling off a cliff and then hitting another cliff the way doing has worked out good for us. But I've always said, don't plan for Rangers not to have a plan, because that isn't a plan. Plan for us to be one step ahead at least.
Well, you lead us on to what do you make, and I'll give my wee take on it as well for what it's worth. Our rivals, and I think it's amazing the sliding door moments that happen, Mark, right? Because we were really at times last season worried we weren't going to win that league. End of story. And rightfully so. And how different the outcomes would have been had that been the case. It wasn't the case. And the things that transpire from that is we get yet another go at guaranteed Champions League football. Yet another go at showing what ambition we've got with loads of money. And, we've still got 15, 16 days to prove us wrong. Rangers had to go through that very tricky playoff route. Whereas Celtic won't invest for a playoff route, Rangers couldn't invest for it. And that came to a head the other night where they played in front of 39,000 fans.
No,
Not
no
at the
chance.
39,000, mate.
No, just quickly. I heard that the break even figure was 31,000. Did you see that? Right?
I seen
Obviously,
that.
did you see the Celtic end? That was, mate, that was. You're lucky if there was 1,000 fans in that side. It really was. Just carry on, mate. I'm just saying that guy's been.
Yeah, you think it's been dressed
Uh,
up? Well,
yeah,
we do that as well, eh? So
yeah,
maybe they've still sold 39,000 tickets.
perhaps. Yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah.
if you've sold the tickets and folk don't
You
go,
got to count it now, haven't you?
it doesn't matter. Aye, exactly. That's exactly the point I'm making. It does because we've had games plenty of games. I'm like, that's 45,000 at Celtic, and it's 60,100. I'm like, is that a record
What?
attendance? Have we expanded the stadium? But back to the point, right? So they crash out to, I think, as bad a European qualifying team as Cluj when Celtic got put out. I watched the full game.
Mm-hmm.
Judge, David Logue on my laptop over here. I had to give my telly up there. Mate, I can't emphasize how bad Kiev were. Pish.
Yeah.
Pish. As bad as I've seen. Rangers played in front of 39,000 fans in a foreign stadium to them. Because it's not ironically sang Frankie Miller's Caledonia to their own lyrics. And we'll be coming down the road. Another Scottish.
Go see Ibrox as well, saying that.
Their irony is incredible. But I've got to be honest. I looked at a side that was lost from minute one, not minute red card. Not minute red card. Forget that. They actually had their best 5-10 minute spell after the red card. Don't forget that.
Yeah.
It gave them impetus because the fans got louder, all 39,000 of them. Now, what I've found out is that this obviously has ramifications for us. It means we get a far bigger chunk of the TV revenue. It's apparently worth an extra 5 to 7 million for Celtic. That's massive, mate, to watch Rangers get beat and Celtic earn 5 to 7 million. I mean, what a fucking double done. We'll not spend it and all that shit, but it's still a nice feeling. They don't get it because they would spend it. But I've got to be honest, I'm talking about a couple of levels here. A club like them, they're kidded on. They'll be back in September. I don't know if you've seen the video that was leaked recently. A guy just walked into Ibrox on his camera phone.
Yeah.
I said that like it was like 2002. Like he had his phone out. His video in Ibrox, mate. It's nowhere near.
Oh, no.
I've been told, I don't want to give away too much. In fact, it's ridiculous how secure it'll be. They've got bills, mate. Fact. Right, just trust Bhoycie on that, right? I'm not one for ITK picture. I wouldn't say they have bills. And if anyone, they'll know what bill I'm talking about that is unpaid. Put it that way, right? That's as much as I'll say. Fact. Right? Fact. I know it from a crazy horse's mouth, if you put it that way. And that's not, I'm going to guess, the only one. I only know about that one because of the directness of it. What I would have to say is when I look at the optics of it all, I think a team that's deteriorating, like a manager that's just as bad as Bill, they've won. Wait for this. They've won 6 games in the last 14 matches. Competitive. If that is Michael Beale, I mean,
it's gone unnoticed, mate. It's gone on. I think it's beginning to be noticed, but there's always an excuse for that for him.
So they're now looking at a manager with this terrible recent record, a crumble last season, and a beginning of this season that's awful. In a different stadium to what they're used to, with fans now turning their back on him by game 3, drop points in the league after match day 1, no money to improve it, and I just think there'll be more to come. They've got a settlement out of court with Elite Sports that's now actually going to go back to court, they think, because they fell out already about they basically says, right, we'll settle this out of court, we'll pay this, and they've reneged on it already because they can't afford it, probably based a wee bit on last night.
Yeah, I spoke about that, right? I said that was a £5 million.
If they won last night, it was a £5 million game. So suddenly that looks like that could be going back to court, and it's 9.5 million again. Now, see if it's settled out of court once. That tells you the £9.5 million that Hummel were coming for was more likely than the other. And Rangers like, rather than going through all that, we'll just give you X.
Yeah.
X now can't be achieved. And Hummel like, right, let's go back. I see that one spiraling out of control. And it's all fun and games. It's all fun and games. Alistair Jack says 6 and 19, but he's including friendlies. We don't include friendlies, Alistair. Come on. You're better than that, Alistair. We're not including friendlies. Because they didn't win one of their 4 preseason friendlies. I don't know if you know that as well, by the way. They didn't win any of them.
I know. And it was they were playing teams like Clattenacud in there. Wasn't big teams they were playing, to be fair.
Aye, Bishop Briggs Rovers and that.
The usual England pre-World Cup teams.
Cayman Islands.
Aye.
But I just think when I add all that up to you, Matt, it's brilliant. I mean, even right now, we're both smart. We're both wee Cheshire cats, and it's fucking shite part of like being like this and so petty, but I can't help it. However, it does worry me that I think the walls are closing in so many ways. Like, I'm not saying they're going to go liquidated or any of that right now, but just in terms of being a realistic competition to us, it's so far away again. Like, you need some sort of sparring partner. I've now got more hope, honestly, for Aberdeen with this new manager, this new way. I don't know if you've seen any of their footage so far this season. And identity already there. He's won every game he's played so far, including League Cup in the league. And they've just banked £7 million. And they will spend because they're not worried about it. Yep. I think that'll be your close thing. Hope for a vibrant, fresh Aberdeen. You're looking at Hearts having a decent squad, but they've got Stevie Naismith in that beige t-shirt. He's got no chance. But I mean, mate, that beige t-shirt, it's like he's bought it at USC. His wife's told him, "You look cool in that, Stephen." Wait for this.
Keep going.
Wait for this. Me and Stephen Naismith are the same age. One was an athlete, the other one smokes 20 Marlboro Gold a day and drinks every night.
Oh my God, aye.
That's crazy. It's the same age. But anyway, all jokes aside, they're not. We might finish this year. I'm being honest. I think around 20 points ahead of them. All sums of parts have came together for them. This will be the crash landing of all crash lands for them this season. It'll be a nightmare. And it's great to gloat. But I do like a decent sparring partner. I know where the people come from with it, but I will laugh throughout nonetheless. What's your thoughts on all that? Because it's quite breathtaking when you put it all together like that. Eh?
It sounds like a perfect storm for them. You know what I mean? It does sound like a perfect storm. All these things are coming together at the right time for them, or the right time for us. And you're right about that court case. You know, I mean, I've been watching this for a few years now. I've been watching this case, and the agreement was last Wednesday. They were given, okay, settle out of court, and they were to come today and just produce the documents. But Rangers didn't get back to their lawyer. Rangers didn't get back to the lawyer and say, oh, okay, we're happy with this. Then come up with some excuse that there was some details within the contract that they weren't sure about. So basically, the judge is getting pissed off and said next Tuesday it better be done, or else.
Are you talking about yourself in the third party?
Who? The judge? This is the Lord Advocate. Is it? No, is it a Lord? No, I'm a lowly judge, mate. I'm sorry, I'm not that high level yet. I'm not living in Edinburgh. But and not only this. You've got a bit of a player situation there because you've got Cantwell training with the under twos. You've got Hadji, who, if he plays 1 more minute, is due a bonus by the club, a la Michael Ball, so won't be played again. And then you've got factions of the first team who are no training with the first team anymore. You've got wanting away players that aren't happy. That reeks a dressing room out, Bhoycie. You've got a manager. I've long said Man U's biggest problem is new manager, new players, sack. New manager, new players, sack. Doesn't work. You got to give one guy, accept mediocrity and give him a few years. At Rangers, you don't get that. They rewarded that guy with a 4-year contract last month. I think that's been a conversation between Rangers board and him, and he said, look, your squad isn't going to compete with Celtic. This is going to be long term. They've said, Philip, you're probably the best we can get. Sign here, and we'll keep it holding you.
The last thing we need is the manager leaving again.
Yes, and then the last thing they need, Bhoycie, is...
So his wages have bumped up, mate, and that's why he's putting up with this push.
Of course. And I think probably, let's be honest here, I know there's the monkeypox virus going about, which might sweep the Europe very soon. So Gerrard might come back to Scotland and play in front of no fans again. Maybe that's a plan, right? Because monkeypox is going nowhere. It's not going in my back anyway. I'm not going near that mob. But unless they get somebody like that with a bit of luck, Clermont's probably the man who's their best bet there. He's probably their best bet. Whether it's good enough to beat Celtic is a big, big question. But so they've stuck with him. But I tell you something, see come December, and if they're 5, 7, 10 points, 20 points as you suggested behind, they're flinging sharks at Ibrox too. And they will need to sack him. Rangers fans will get a louder voice than Celtic fans. That main stand at Ibrox, any Rangers manager will tell you it is fucking visceral, you know what I mean? And you hear it on the radio that the main stand at Celtic Park tend to be folk with a wee bit more class about them, folk who want to just sit and go to the game, or maybe get kids with them. At Ibrox, it's the guys for the UDA and all that sit there, you know what I mean? They'll tell a manager when something shit, you know what I mean? That club deck, you know what I mean? You can imagine. So I think they will turn on this manager. Can they afford to sack him? No, they can't afford to sack him. I think this is the perfect storm, Bhoycie. And Clermont mentioned it the other day there. He was asked a straight question, and he's too honest. He was asked, on some things, does your next level of player depend on qualifying for the next round? They went, of course it does. Basically, which makes you think...
He gets his second transfer budget. When did you get your first one?
Aye, yeah, exactly. And I do think that the court case stumbling point and that result in Wednesday are two of them are linked.
Of course they are. It's a check's bounced or something, mate. Like, where's the proof of funds? Where's the proof of funds? What message end of the week?
I reckon they've said to the lawyer, hold off, we'll settle at the last minute, we'll move it forward a week or two, then we will know what situation we're at in terms of the next round. And then they've been beat off of this team, who I think they've been surprised at getting beat off at board level at least. Because board level is guys like me and you who don't know. Like Clermont probably knows that their players are probably, to him, the people will know 5 or 6 of them off by heart. He'll know they're good players in that team, right?
Yep.
At board level, they're laymen. They'll think, oh, we're Rangers, we should beat that. So they're already counting the cash. So I think they're surprised at that defeat, Bhoycie. And I think you got to get a £5 million. You sold too many shares. It's not a penny share anymore now. It's nothing new. It's in the sky. And I think now it means they're beginning to reap the bad rewards of years and years of misgivings after 2012.
See, the way I see it is they're on a roundabout, mate, that they can't get off. And if they get off, they jump back on the roundabout. It just keeps going round. I guarantee you, the next couple of months,
push harder.
I'll send for Derek McInnes, and I'm like, where am I? And then Derek McInnes will say, I had a look under the bonnet. I didn't say it again. He'll do it again. He'll do the same again. But the same name will come up this time around, and he'll have the same reaction. I'm like,
get Derek Adams.
And Brendan Rodgers will be the driver. I'm like, fuck, this is crazy, man.
I don't know if you listened to, I know you did because you watch it all the time. I don't know if you listened to Simon Jordan and Graham Souness the other day there.
Yep.
And it was put to Graham Souness like, listen, you were in amongst the decision making. You chose Frank Lampard and then went to Clermont.
Yeah, that's right.
Was better. And he was kind of flapping his answers. And
he was.
Eventually, even Graham Souness had to say, look, the people who run Rangers have not got a fucking clue about football. I don't think you have to have a clue about football.
He said he did not think they got football decisions or knew what they were talking about when it came to football decisions. That's incredible put down, eh?
Oh, well, that'll be the last time they ask him for advice. But I think that's fine. I don't think
a team, by the way.
I don't think them at Desmond or Peter Lawwell should know how to pick a player. They should know who to hire to pick a player. And it's the same when it comes to football decisions. They should have the know-how or the network to pick the right people to make decisions to impact the football department. Rangers don't have the people, I don't think, that will impact the commercial side or financial side or impact the football side. There's too many folk that are in that director's box who have got their shares that diluted by ploughing in money. It's turned into shares that they're too far in, Bhoycie, to walk away. And they're too far in that their shares are now become that diluted that if they sell it, they've as well just given it away. So it becomes better for a company like McGill's to be on the board at Rangers and get the influence and the power that wields than to sell it for a fraction of what you're putting. You know what I mean? Douglas Park, for talk's sake, him being who he is at Rangers opens up so many doors for him as a businessman. So he's staying put. And long may it continue, because unless they get Dave King out, and who was an utter buffoon, but at least he knew what path to go on. At least can he get you on the path? No.
He is the emperor's new clothes. He could sell you nothing. He'll get them to buy in again. He would be able to generate £10 million if he came back to them like that and spend it all on players. But it wouldn't be his money. He generates it like that. But yeah, I wonder though if last year was, if I'm being honest, I just think last year, Matt, was the closest they would get. And my worry is the appetite. I'm being honest, the appetite for Rodgers goes again. If this year goes the way I think it will, if we don't also look like we're interested in Europe. Because if we're interested in domestic bliss, I think this will be beyond bliss this year. And I don't say big gloating face. I'm being realistic. I think we'll win the league by 100 points. I think we'll win the league by about 20 points. I don't think they're anywhere near. See the amount of drop points they'll have at home instead of Ibrox because it's Hampden. Factor all that in, mate. It's going to be a cakewalk. And in my opinion, unless, as I say, and by the way, fingers crossed a wee bit, if I'm completely honest, and Aberdeen or Hearts, if they get rid of Stephen A. Smith, sort of make a challenge. But I worry that come the end of the year, people reflect and review. And if it was to be another Champions League campaign with 3 points, say, or 4 points, well, from 8 games, that would be still only 1 win. Say, that would be more deflated. Say we got 1 win from 8 games, a couple of draws. You don't make any progress there, and the domestic competition's a bit naff.
Well,
does that not worry you?
No.
That you could, not from a fan's point of view.
No. From a managerial point of view. And I'll tell you why.
Go on.
I think Rodgers got the gig at Leicester through his domestic stuff at Celtic. I think Ange Postecoglou, whose European record at Celtic was, let's be honest here, shit. Right. He got the Spurs job. I think Celtic, there's new enough gravitas that managers and boards in England can now look beyond their opposition and look at the job that a certain manager's doing, because they know running Celtic and managing Celtic is a different kettle of fish for almost every club in Scotland, Britain. There's an expectation, there's a desire to play attractive football, win a certain way, compete to a certain extent in Europe. You know, tick all these boxes, handle yourself really good in press conferences, be that goldfish bowl manager. And Rodgers and Ange proved that you can still get back to the EPL, or in Ange's case, get to the EPL. Now, Rodgers is on a mission to get his name back, his reputation back, right? I think there's 2 ways he can do that. I think the first way he can do it is with the Celtic fans. I think he's nearly there. I think last season's double. I think in this season Rodgers was back. The real Rodgers was back. I think the fans were singing his name, and it was a proud moment for Rodgers. There's some doubters still. Won a treble, and you've won there already, fans. I think date the right way, sign the right players, play a certain brand of football, and there's the other side that Rodgers' reputation has to be restored. Is his job at Leicester. If you ask a chairman in England, they'll tell you very, very good, apart from the last 5% of it. 95% getting to a European semi-final.
No one needs to drink up here that are the poo-poos.
He put 5 past Man City. He beat Man U, Man City, Chelsea. He beat them all in one season.
Top 6 with Leicester, aye.
Yeah, and
won the FA Cup, won the Charity Shield, finished 5th twice. Was it literally a minute away from Champions?
So that's.
Do you honestly don't factor all in? But what you will look at, you've made a great point there. Rodgers is very, very clever with this stuff. And West is a bit of him, goes, I said I'll stay for the 3 years. There's not one way I'll leave early. He goes, after that, my eyes are very much open to offers, right?
That's fine.
Which is fine. So what I'm saying though is, I'm agreeing here, is he looked at Andrew and gone, Bodo Glimt, they beat them. They got humped off them. That was his fucking... Forget the Bodo Glimt thing. He goes, 2 points Champions League, I've doubled them already. He goes, this guy got Spurs? That's way bigger than Leicester. I didn't... He'll be like, I'm going back up there for a bit more of that. And when I come back, it better be Man United.
Well,
I sound like I'm jesting, but Postecoglou must have inspired. He should inspire a raft of managers, mate. Come up here, have domestic bliss, do absolute shite in Europe, embarrass yourself in some instances. Midtjylland put Andrew at the Champions League. Bodo Glimt put him at the Europa League. That's realities. I know the Midtjylland one's a wee bit naughty, but because he didn't have his team, but still Midtjylland, mate. You know what I mean?
The Rangers put about 9 past a few months before it. You know what I mean?
That's right. That's right. Anyway, right. Last question for you, Judge, because I know I've kept you a wee bit late. I know it's nearly bedtime for the big. The Judge needs his sleep, mate. He's got big decisions to make.
I need to go to Chambers.
Last one. Matt O'Reilly. I think you're in agreement with me. He still goes. Tell me your fee and why.
Well, the more you get, of course, I'm not going to say no to money unless it's... but anyway, I've still said...
A bullet will be betting the won it. There will be right now. People don't like...
I think Celtic will accept 25. I think Celtic will accept...
put a for sale sign out in their garden map with the fee on it. But they're quiet in their chambers. They will have a debate saying, that's the fee we're waiting on. They're not going to tell the clubs that. Keep going up, 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 up. I would say a month ago, 20 million plus add-ons. Southampton bid that, and I was convinced. Remember saying, I was like, he'll go to Southampton. That's what they bid. That was their limit. And it turns out we've turned it down. Brighton have spent a lot of money elsewhere. They might be falling out the race, but Atalanta are now on to bid number 5. Do you get to 5 bids and not get your guy? I don't think so. I think they're doing what Celtic doing, just going up as gradually as possible. Remember, Syria hasn't started yet. People can call Atalanta all they want. We do this after 2 games. Atalanta just playing the market. But if it were you and I was Atalanta and I'm going, right, here we go. Final offer, 6 bids, £23 million plus a potential extra 3 or 4 million depending on Champions League qualification, goals, assists, international caps. What do you say?
Oh, definitely, of course. You know, I mean,
Would you take it?
How much you say?
23 million plus 3 or 4 million add-ons.
I'd take. I took 15. I told you that. I said that months ago. It's a fair value. It's a fair value. I mean,
football isn't a fair valuation for a lot of players, so why should ours be? Because no one else is fair value.
Folks say, oh, the guy in the Championship went for 15 million. Or but folk are forgetting. I mean, we're playing against League One players, Bhoycie, and I mean English League One players. We are really Hearts team. 8 or 9 of them League One standards, couple in the Championship. Rangers Championship, lower EPL at best. Okay, that's who we're playing against, right? So we're not playing against. Oh, this guy played 10 games for Man City. He's gone for 15 million. He played for Man City in the fucking Premier League. That's why, you know what I mean. But bad example. 15 million for me personally. I would have sold him for that, but I'm not setting the board. But
I'm glad you're going for that one. Like, I'm glad you're
21.5 million is the biggest move for Atalanta. I mean, they made more money last night playing that Super Cup final. £3-4 million, whatever it is that they made last night. Surely that bridges the gap.
We made more than that last night.
Celtic
and Rangers went out.
Aye, there you go. I don't think Celtic are. I don't Celtic are desperate to sell them. So that I think that Celtic are playing the very, very the snake eye. That you just call that the poker eyes. You know what I mean? They're playing
snake eyes watching you. Motorhead.
But I do think that I think they want to sell them. I think they want to. Of course, they want to sell them. They'll tell me you they want to sell them.
You know what I get, Mark? Their instinct is, of course, to sell. They want to sell a big player every summer. That's part of their KPIs, I think, almost. Do you think Matt O'Reilly's desperate to go?
Of course he is.
Do you think he's desperate to go?
Not being desperate, but that's the way I think it.
I think he's a rare breed. A rare breed. I think he would stay without qualms. I think others in that position, fuck off. I'm going. They kick off by bid number 5. Don't get to bid number 5 normally, mate. It's the player power comes into play. He's not done any of that, mate.
I think a lot is based on the fact that he took a big pay. He took a big pay cut. I think it was at Fulham to go to MK Dons. You know what I mean? And quite a lot as a young boy, given the right advice, probably at the time he probably said, "Look, go there, play. Come here, and you will play, and then the move will come." That's a long game strategy, and that's worked out for him. I think now he's at the table now where he's picking and choosing where he can go. That's now the position this guy's in, where he's able to pick La Liga, Serie A, or the EPL. He's made it. He's made it to the stage where he wants to go to. Now it's about the next stage, and I think Celtic will offer him. What's he on just now? 60. He's on £1,000 a week more than Ralston. £1,000 a week.
No, it's in the new deal, mind. That's summer.
Well, it says on that transfer, he's on 16 grand a week. It just says on 26, right? It just says on 26, right?
Sound?
Right. I doubt it's 26. We'll say 26, right? He can conservatively get 80 grand a week. Conservative. If he's going for £25 million.
I don't doubt that. I think that's right.
And I think I'd be sitting there now going, I've trained the day.
But he's not, though, is he?
But I don't think he's pushing for the move.
Yes.
It's like Idah said the day in his press conference. I was just doing my work in the training ground and my agent was dealing with it. I would phone every day asking what's going on.
He didn't go on a plane, mate, at one point.
No, he says that. Anyway, but
I think O'Reilly's a refreshing attitude. That's what I'm trying to say. I think it's good if he stays. I think you'll get the full commitment off him. And I love the fact he's not upset the apple cart in an era of.
No, I don't think he's going to down tools and no shot for training. I don't think he's not going to walk out the manager's office and dare Dembele. I don't think that at all. When I say he asked if he's desperate to go, I don't think he's desperate to go. I think he 100% wants to go. You know what I mean? Don't forget, every day he's at Celtic, it's probably costing him 5-6 grand in his pocket. Every day. You know what I mean? It's probably costing the guy. That does add up, and that does come on your mind, boys. You know what I mean?
Of course, I get that bit. But he's not kicked off, and he's not that's what I'm finding refreshing, Matt.
Like last night, no, he's not that. I like that part. I say that see, last night, we watched that Atlanta Real Madrid game. I watched the first half only.
Proper team.
I thought myself, Aurelio's watching that 100%. He's watching European football. Anyway, he's sitting there thinking himself, I could be playing in a European Super Cup final against Real Madrid just now. Of course he does. Or sit on the bench at Celtic Park for Hibs on Saturday because they want to sell me Sunday.
I hope he's like got one of those old Sky dishes, mate, where the screen just goes all speckly. Mate, I'll tell you something interesting about it. Remember that used to be when you had Sky and the screen would go speckly back in the 90s, early 2000s. Remember it was the wee speckles?
I've told you about that. I've told you about that was, didn't I?
What was it?
But that's a cosmic background radiation. That's what that is. That's what that is. That's exactly what that is. It's a
that was back in the day, though. Remember it was.
I same on channel 3 and 4 when it used to cut off.
Right, so Sky used to be really bad, like especially if it was bad weather. Now, what's the one game it was that bad? I missed all but one goal. Fir Park, Celtic put 7 past them. I think Henrik scored 4. Craig,
I remember that.
I want to say he scored 98, something like that.
And goals.
Now, my dad had quite the passion for watching Celtic, and he had quite the temper when things weren't going his way. Never have I seen him so angry. Celtic scoring 7. If I miss one more fucking goal, I swear to you, we could just hear the commentary. Just the screeners was going, that speckly, you couldn't mind the dodgy.
Aye.
It was a dodgy dish, but the dish just became dodgy in bad weather conditions. You're like, fuck. But I'll never forget, we scored 1 goal in real time. 1 goal we seen scored. Another 6 that Celtic scored at 5. I've seen Celtic score 7 in my life. It was mad.
That's me at home game. See, I miss about 3 or 4 goals a match. I don't catch. I've seen us winning 5-0 and I've caught 1 goal.
How?
I'm either at the toilet, I'm still in the bar, I'm going back up for half time. Like I seen 1 goal against Rangers last year live. 1 goal I seen live last year against Rangers. And that was the Bernardo's goal. Missed
good goal.
Kyogo's man, remember that 30-yarder? Missed that. I missed the one at Ibrox. Oh no, I tell a lie, I seen Idah's goal. I seen 2 goals. You know what I mean? That's what I seen. But I'm always. What was the game last week? Yeah, I seen one. I seen 1 goal last week. See the home game, the one 4-0 was it? I seen 1 goal. I seen the first goal. Who scored that?
That's good.
Who was it? Hatati. It's the only goal I seen. Missed the rest of them. Okay, but anyway, I don't mind that.
Anyway,
I
that
remember that
was
game well.
a wee bit reminiscent. The old Speckley Sky and David Kelly spot on. Was it one of those Sunday night kickoffs? Correct, it was. I used to quite like that. I was a kid at the time. I mean, it was like it pushed. It was like going back to school felt further away. Like because you had Sunday night taken up by the football. I quite liked it.
I used to hate that. I was got a lot of away games back then.
See,
Quite a lot. And
I've
I
always
was
been a telly watcher. I loved it.
no, that's fine. And I used to hate like sometimes when they get into like mad timing, but for school and all the rest of it, I used to hate that because I mean my alarm was at 5:30 now. Then it was 7:30. I was greeting about it. I mean, at 7:30 now, I'm up and showered by that time, even when I'm off. But back then, I used to be I couldn't have to wake up that time. But I remember that game well. I think that was it was a dark match. It was a winter match.
Burnley scored. It was snowing and all that, mate. But it was like that's why the satellite signal was. The weather was that bad that was affecting the signal. It was. I mean, the speckling on it was like just taking over the whole screen. We missed 6 out of 7 goals.
I think in 4 matches he scored 3 hat tricks. And that was one of them. Somebody can check that period of time. I think that was one of the games he scored 3 hat tricks in like 4 games or something back then. Larson.
What? Yeah, that might be right.
I think he scored. I think it was like a 4-game period. He scored 3 hat tricks. So the big kick up. And remember, it was even money to score a hat trick, and every gambler was up in arms about it. I mean, how could somebody bet even money to score a hat trick? And it was that period. I'm pretty sure it was. God, right, those were the days.
Yeah, 6:05 Sunday kickoffs. Apologies to
Mondays as well. Mondays ones, it was 6:05 the Monday as well. Remember they ones?
Not really. I don't remember Mondays.
Monday for a while. That was a strange kick off. Remember the strange kick off Saturday 3:00. Remember them back in the day? I don't know what happened today. 3:00 kick off.
Scott Sport. Jerry McNee commentating that.
Was that
Jerry McNee commentating? It was.
Jerry McNee, of course. Aye.
Yeah, actually, do you know he was a big Tim?
Jerry McNee.
Big Tim.
Yeah,
But also he's a Rangers fan. But we always thought everyone was a Rangers fan back then. But aye, good times back then. Remember the theme song for the Sky thing as well, just very quickly. The Sky Sports back then, the Sunday nights, it was a band called Stiltskin, a one-hit wonder, a Scottish band, and it was a song called Inside. And it's like heavy metal guitars at the start. I used to get you right into it, man. I was like, that's how you hype it up, man.
That is like swoosh, wasn't it? Swoosh.
Aye. It was like
it
just felt. See, by it felt it was proper investment in the game. Eh?
Well, it was, Bhoycie, because quite a lot of time you'd have the English Premier League commentators doing the big matches before you would have Martin Tyler and Andy Gray doing the Old Firm games. They would bring in the big guns. Even if you look back in the day, you would see like some top pundits doing the Celtic matches. There's even ones kicking about like see Gary Lineker at Derby matches doing the studio stuff. They send up Chris Boyd and James McFadden. I mean, the intellect.
I actually like McFadden.
Between the two.
I like McFadden.
James McFadden, mate.
No.
I'm still bemused. I'm still bemused how that guy made a career. I did not rate that guy one. I get a cracking goal against France.
Really?
I didn't rate him at all. I remember at the time he was like
I love that. We will talk about that another time. I think a player that could have been for Celtic, McFadden, you would have not wanted it. That's a good debate one night. We'll maybe carry that on next week.
I'd rather be that. Who was that singer? Kerry McFadden.
Oh, Mark. You should set up your own OnlyFans, mate. Right, we're out of here. It's been the T.N.F. Thanks so much. Hour and 25 minutes. Shows are getting longer. It's been great fun tonight. Thanks so much to the judge. And of course, everyone in the live chat, as always. Thanks for also made the odd wee donation there as well. It's really kind. You don't need to do that. Obviously, we appreciate it all. And keep your eyes on the rest of the window. See ya.